This is Kona's left side, which was his hard side. And he's just doing super today. We are at the end of our 3rd week. Okay, bring him down. Let him think about it. Nice. Boy, I wish I would have got his first initial transition up into his lope. Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. It was perfect. I didn't catch it. I couldn't get my phone working right. So maybe to the right, we'll get it this time. Oh. Well, he's always much nicer to his right, so maybe she'll get to see a really pretty transition from his... You're going to have to just don't do it yet. He's got a lot more cooling down to catch his breath. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear. So maybe she'll get to see how beautiful he transitions up into his lope. Because I missed it on the bad side, so it should be great on the good side. Okay, the difference today and what we're doing today is we are moving Kona forward in his training to be able to handle opposing leg and rein, which is what you do, Tanya, is left rein, right leg, right rein, left leg. So, which is the way we ride as well. The only reason we haven't been able to use that on Kona so far is because we needed a cue to be able to catch his shoulder because he was diving into his turn and instead of staying balanced and in control in his turns. So we had to build the cue to be able to catch him when he makes that mistake because he doesn't know it's a mistake until he has education. So now we have a cue that we have spent 3 weeks teaching him in a way that so that he can bring his body back into balance and realize that when we go to using opposing leg and rein, like everyone rides, including us, including you, that it is no longer acceptable to dive into his turn and straighten his body and throw his shoulder. So today we started his warm-up with, same leg, same rein, so that we could correct what you had going on from your lesson yesterday because he was a bit frustrated and kind of ornery about it and impatient. So we worked him through it and got him back to where he was being obedient. There she just caught him again with right rein, right leg. He was being obedient and kind and calm and accepting of the cue. And then we transitioned into opposing leg and rein and to see if he would maintain his frame and keep his shape and not throw his shoulder inward when he has an open right rein and a left leg on. And for the most part, he did really, really well. She had to catch him a couple times by bringing her inside leg on, which would be, if she were asking for a left turn, she would start out in the turn, like most people do, with left rein, right leg. If he threw his shoulder in, she would bring her left leg in and catch him, stand him back up, and reshape him, and continue to ask him to turn with correct form. And he made very few mistakes And so we were really happy to see that he is moving forward into being more of a responsible citizen. So we didn't catch all that on video because mainly Kona's here to improve his lope, but no one can improve a horse's lope without starting way before the lope with cues to assist them. When you have speed, you need a lot of aids to assist you when things fall apart. Otherwise, you're just grabbing leather and pulling back and trying to get the whole circus and rodeo to stop, and that's not appropriate or functional or even pretty. So in order to have control at the lope, you have to have control at the walk and at the jog and at the extended trot, and so that when you get to the lope, you have control there too. So that means we had to teach him some cues to help us to get our job done as we are paid for. In event, of course, it makes him a much better horse all the way around because he's going to be a more enjoyable ride. If you, Tanya, can catch up to his training, which is going to mean you're going to need more hours in the saddle under guidance to make sure that you're not reverting to your old habits, which will make him revert back to the habits that created him and these issues that you were experiencing. We have to recreate you as well. He's having issue with wanting to dive through his right shoulder, so she's kind of picking him up and catching him, and you're seeing him kind of be a little snappy with his face, a little resentful in his face. And there again, it's just because you rode him yesterday and he's a little confused at the end of the ride. So, of course, the beginning of this one, he's going to be confused as well. So she'll clear up the confusion and remind him that this is the way it's going to be and this is what's proper and right. And when he's relaxed and accepting of the way she's riding and relaxes to her tutelage, then she'll take him on up into his lope. She will not take him into his lope as long as he is fussing with her. That is insane. He is green and he needs lots of support and guidance. And so we want to do that at the slower speeds where we have more time, because we're going slower, to make the corrections without making him feel afraid or abused. Looks like he's calming down quite nicely. So I expect her to ask him to lope. Oh, he kind of pulled his head away from her there and bowed his neck to the left. And he's supposed to be keeping his frame, nose to tail frame, on the same arc as the circle she's riding. So if he pulls his face to the left, he's counter bending right there. He wants to dive in through that shoulder right there in that corner. And so she's having to pick him up and at the jog and tell him, no, we're not going to just throw our shoulder in and counter bend in this corner. We're going to ride correctly, nose to tail, with the same arc as you've been riding the rest of the circle. You're going to ride this corner the same way. That was nice. And so he's saying, no, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. He knows he's going to lope this way. And so they get a little pensive. They think, okay, I loped one way. I know she's going to lope me the other way. So, like all of us, their old habits come back. And that's what comes to the forefront, is our habit. So that's all she's dealing with right now, is his old habits. As he begins to kind of get nervous or pent up or anxious about going into his lope again, we're seeing his old habits begin to surface a little bit, and she's just kind of dealing with them. Okay, your inside rein leaves a little too quickly when you finish the cue, and it makes him bounce a little bit. So be careful how quick you remove that rein from his neck after you've applied the cue. I want you to watch her hands. Don't watch the pretty pony. Watch the rider. You can't learn a darn thing from the horse. When you watch these videos, Tanya, you watch the rider only. As viewers, we tend to watch the horse's legs. I don't know why. We all do it. I catch myself doing it. Stop watching the horse's legs. You have to watch the rider first, and then let your eye flow to the horse as you see the horse respond. Then go back to the rider, watch the rider. When they give a cue, then let your eye flow to how the horse responds. And so it's a new way of looking at riding, and it is something you're going to have to teach yourself. Okay, let's see if that's better lighting. Okay, she had to start paying attention to that corner right there because he wants to float up to the gate. So when that happens, you got to start talking to him about that corner right there so that you can get a nice corner. Otherwise, he'll think he's going to hit the wall, and then he'll drop to his trot, which is what happened. We kind of post up and kiss when he loses his lope at this point. It's a cue that we put into the horses so that they would not always want to be loping, because once we start loping, they get some anxiousness about loping. So then every time we go to jog or extend the trot, the colt wants to break in, gets all anxious, and head goes up and shoulders go down and back gets hollow, and they think they're going to lope because it kind of scares them because it comes early. We don't lope till the end of our workout on the baby. So when we ask them to jog, they think, oh, they're going to lope me. And so in order to avoid that, we give them a different cue to go into their lope than we do into their jog, which means we kind of start kissing and we post up into our lope so that when we can stay and keep our pretty jog, because we never do that at the jog. And so without that cue, they never worry that they're going to be asked to lope and be surprised by it. And as the horse gets better and better broke, of course, we can do away with that and bring them into their lope, with a lope cue. But that's just training. It's like trying to ask a kindergartner to do arithmetic. They can't. Or play pro football. They can't. So as you start a colt, they have different expectations with different cues that will change or be eliminated entirely as they advance in their journey to become a broke horse. So that is with everything we do. we have to be clear and precise when they're starting out, because we want them to stay calm and give themselves to us and be patient and realize that we're never going to surprise them with anything unless they're misbehaving, and there will be a consequence for that. We are trying not to ever be unfair. So I don't want to have to be battling a horse that wants to lope every single time I take him out of the walk. So we use a different cue for that. And so when you watch her lope, run this video back and watch her lope, you'll see her post up and start kissing. And we never lope towards the open end of the arena. We only lope going into the closed end of the arena or into a wall, because they will take their incorrect lead, because when they come around and they are thinking up the arena wall, they're thinking out the gate, or and they'll change leads. They'll pick up the wrong lead because they're young. So when they're young, we set them up correctly to succeed by helping them in every way we can to make the right choice until they get patterned. And sometimes that happens in 3 weeks of loping. Sometimes that happens in 3 months of loping. It is an individual journey for the individual horse. And we can push them along as fast as they're able. But if we push them too hard, we're going to get fear and apprehension and worry and all kinds of little nasty little habits that come along with chomping on the bridle and doing all kinds of weird things that we don't want them to do. So I tend to not push them real hard. And another trainer might that is more goal-oriented. I'm not. I think these horses get enough surprises and enough unfairness done to them in their life as our riding horse. So I don't want to add to that. They have a lot to worry about packing us around. I think they do it quite graciously. Mariah and I were having a conversation earlier today that a lot of horses get habits because the owners ride them and the horse reacts, and then the horse gets in trouble. And I'm going to give you an example. Using too much leg on your horse gets your horse to zip real hard in the opposite direction. Then they get in trouble for zipping off real hard in the opposite direction. And so, they're darned if they do and they're darned if they don't. And that's just an example. Instead of saying to themselves, "Oh my gosh, I guess I applied too much leg," the rider instead says, "You little poop, how dare you?" and tends to blame the horse rather than analyzing the way that they're actually riding that horse. And so we want to make sure that we address all those issues ourselves and make sure that we bring them to each owner to make them aware that they need to change their riding habits so that they're more of a partner to their horse rather than a dictator. So, there you go.